Throughout history, beauty has been a fascinating and ever-evolving concept, often influenced by cultural, societal, and even technological factors. From ancient civilizations to modern times, people have pursued various beauty trends to enhance their appearance or adhere to societal standards. While many of these trends have been timeless classics, others have ventured into the realm of the peculiar, pushing the boundaries of conventional aesthetics. Number 10. Long fingernails. The trend of growing long fingernails has roots in various cultures and historical periods, often symbolizing wealth, status, and beauty. One of the most renowned examples of this trend comes from ancient China, where long, elaborately decorated fingernails were a symbol of aristocracy and leisure. In China's Ming Dynasty, 1368 to 1644, long nails were an indication that a person did not need to engage in manual labor, signifying their elevated social standing. Women of noble birth often grew their nails long, sometimes to extreme lengths, as a display of their wealth and privilege. These nails were meticulously cared for and adorned with intricate designs, jewels, or even gold filigree. Similarly, in ancient Egypt, long, well-manicured nails were a sign of wealth and leisure. Both men and women would use oils and cosmetics to maintain their nails, often staining them with henna for added elegance. Today, while the trend of long fingernails may not carry the same social connotations as it did in ancient times, it remains a popular beauty practice in many cultures. Nail extensions and intricate nail art are widely embraced, offering individuals a creative outlet for self-expression and personal style. Number 9. Teeth blackening. Teeth blackening, also known as tooth lacquering or teeth staining, is a practice that has been observed in various cultures throughout history, particularly in East Asia. One of the most notable examples is the tradition of ohaguro in Japan, which dates back centuries. Ohaguro involved staining one's teeth black using a mixture primarily composed of iron filings, vinegar, and tea extracts. This practice held significant cultural and social significance in Japan, where blackened teeth were considered a symbol of beauty, maturity, and social status, particularly among married women. Ohaguro was believed to enhance one's smile, prevent tooth decay, and even ward off evil spirits. While the practice of teeth blackening gradually declined with the modernization of Japan and the introduction of Western dental practices, its legacy continues to resonate in cultural traditions and historical artifacts. Teeth blackening serves as a striking example of how beauty standards can vary dramatically across different cultures and epochs, challenging conventional notions of attractiveness and aesthetics. Number 8. Strange corsets. The strange corsets beauty trend refers to the historical practice of wearing corsets, particularly during the Victorian era in the 19th century, that resulted in extreme shaping of the waist and body. While corsets were commonly worn for centuries as undergarments to shape and support the torso, the Victorian era saw a heightened emphasis on achieving an exaggerated hourglass figure. During this time, women sought to achieve what was known as the wasp waist or hourglass figure, where the waist appeared unnaturally narrow in comparison to the bust and hips. To achieve this desired silhouette, women would tightly lace themselves into corsets made of various materials such as whalebone, metal, or stiffened fabric. The practice of waist training, or tight lacing, involved gradually cinching the corset tighter and tighter over time to reduce the waist circumference. This extreme compression could lead to physical discomfort, difficulty breathing, and even long-term health issues such as organ displacement and skeletal deformities. Despite the potential risks and discomfort associated with corsetry, the trend persisted due to societal pressures and beauty standards of the time. Corsets were considered essential garments for women of all social classes, symbolizing femininity, refinement, and adherence to Victorian ideals of beauty and modesty. While the practice of wearing corsets for extreme waist reduction has largely fallen out of favor in modern times, corsetry continues to be embraced as a fashion statement and form of self-expression, albeit in more comfortable and less restrictive forms. The strange corsets beauty trend serves as a stark reminder of the lengths to which people have historically gone in pursuit of beauty and conformity to societal norms. Number 7. Tiny teeth. The tiny teeth beauty trend, also known as dwarfing, was a peculiar practice that emerged in certain indigenous cultures, particularly in parts of Africa and Southeast Asia. Unlike conventional beauty standards that often prioritize straight and white teeth, this trend involved intentionally filing down or extracting teeth to achieve a smaller, pointed appearance. Among the tribes of the Minoay Islands in Indonesia, for example, it was customary for women to have their teeth filed down to sharp points, a practice believed to enhance their beauty and allure. Similarly, in some African cultures such as the Mercy and Surma tribes in Ethiopia, teeth extraction was performed to achieve a similar effect, with women often having their lower teeth removed and their upper teeth sharpened to points. The reasons behind the tiny teeth beauty trend varied from culture to culture. In some cases, it was believed that smaller teeth enhanced facial symmetry and femininity, while in others, it was thought to signify maturity, tribal identity, or even protection against evil spirits. While this beauty trend may seem unusual or even extreme by contemporary standards, it highlights the diverse and culturally specific ideals of beauty that have existed throughout history. Number 6. Lips plate. The lips plate beauty trend, also known as lip stretching or lip plating, is a traditional practice that has been observed in several indigenous cultures, particularly in parts of Africa and South America. This practice involves inserting progressively larger discs or plates into a pierced hole in the lower or upper lip, gradually stretching the lip over time to accommodate larger plates. One of the most well-known examples of lip plating comes from the Mercy and Surma tribes of Ethiopia and South Sudan. In these cultures, lip plates are primarily worn by women and are considered a symbol of beauty, maturity, and cultural identity. The size of the lip plate often correlates with a woman's social status, with larger plates being indicative of higher status or wealth. The origins of lip plating are believed to be rooted in cultural traditions and spiritual beliefs. Some theories suggest that the practice may have originated as a means of deterring slave traders or as a form of body modification associated with tribal rituals and rites of passage. While the lips plate beauty trend may seem extreme or unusual by contemporary standards, it holds deep cultural significance for the communities that practice it. Despite efforts by some to discourage or outlaw the practice due to concerns about its impact on physical health and cultural preservation, it continues to be embraced by certain indigenous groups as an important cultural tradition and expression of identity. The lips plate trend serves as a striking example of the diversity of beauty ideals and practices found across different cultures and societies. Number 5. Long skulls. The practice of elongating the skull, also known as cranial deformation or artificial cranial modification, was a unique beauty trend observed in various ancient cultures around the world. This practice involved shaping the skull during infancy or early childhood to produce a distinctive elongated or flattened shape. One of the most well-known examples of this practice comes from the ancient civilizations of Mesoamerica, particularly among the Maya, Inca, and some indigenous groups of Peru. Among these cultures, elongated skulls were associated with beauty, nobility, and high social status. Infant skulls were often bound or tightly wrapped with cloth or boards to shape them as they grew, resulting in elongated or flattened cranial shapes. Similarly, cranial deformation was also practiced in other parts of the world, including certain regions of Africa, Europe, and the South Pacific. Each culture had its own unique techniques and reasons for practicing cranial modification, which could include religious or spiritual beliefs, social hierarchy, or cultural identity. While the precise motivations behind the long skull's beauty trend varied from culture to culture, it often served as a marker of belonging and identity within a particular society. Despite the decline of this practice in modern times, the legacy of cranial deformation persists in archaeological evidence, cultural artifacts, and historical records, offering a fascinating glimpse into the diverse ways in which humans have shaped and adorned their bodies throughout history. Number 4. Veins painting. The veins painting beauty trend, also known as vein art or vein makeup, is a relatively recent phenomenon that gained popularity in the realm of fashion and beauty. This trend involves using makeup techniques to create the illusion of visible veins on the skin, typically on the face or hands. The veins painting trend emerged as a form of avant-garde makeup and body art, often seen in editorial photo shoots, runway shows, and artistic makeup displays. Makeup artists use specialized techniques and products, such as liquid latex, body paints, and fine brushes, to meticulously paint realistic-looking veins onto the skin. These painted veins can vary in size, color, and placement, allowing for creative experimentation and artistic expression. While veins painting may seem unusual or even unsettling to some, it has been embraced by makeup enthusiasts and artists as a way to push the boundaries of conventional beauty standards and explore new avenues of self-expression. The trend has also been utilized in the realm of special effects makeup for film, television, and theater productions, where realistic-looking veins may be needed to enhance a character's appearance or convey a particular narrative. Overall, veins painting represents a unique fusion of artistry, creativity, and beauty, challenging traditional notions of makeup and offering individuals a novel way to adorn and transform their appearance. Number 3. Pale skin. The pale skin beauty trend refers to a historical fashion and beauty standard that favored a fair, porcelain-like complexion, particularly prevalent in Europe during the Renaissance and Victorian eras. Pale skin was considered a symbol of refinement, elegance, and high social status. In Renaissance Europe, the pale skin trend emerged as a contrast to the tanned and weathered skin associated with outdoor laborers. Wealthy individuals, who could afford a life of leisure indoors, often avoided sun exposure to maintain a pale complexion. This preference for pale skin was further perpetuated by cultural influences, such as literature, art, and societal norms, which portrayed fair-skinned individuals as idealized embodiments of beauty and virtue. During the Victorian era, the pale skin trend reached its peak, fueled in part by Queen Victoria's own preference for a pale complexion. Women used various methods to achieve and maintain pale skin, including avoiding sun exposure, wearing wide-brimmed hats and parasols outdoors, and using cosmetics such as lead-based face powders and creams to lighten the skin tone. The pale skin trend persisted well into the 20th century. However, attitudes towards tanning began to shift in the mid-20th century, influenced by changing perceptions of health and beauty. Tan skin came to be associated with leisure, outdoor activities, and a healthy, active lifestyle, leading to a decline in the popularity of the pale skin trend. Advancements in skincare and makeup have made it possible for individuals to achieve a pale complexion without resorting to potentially harmful practices. Number 2. Elongated neck rings. The elongated neck rings beauty trend, also known as neck stretching or neck elongation, is a traditional practice observed in certain indigenous cultures, particularly among the Kayan-Lawi and other tribes in Southeast Asia, notably in Myanmar, formerly Burma, and Thailand. This practice involves wearing multiple coils or rings around the neck from an early age, gradually adding more rings over time to lengthen the appearance of the neck. Contrary to the popular misconception that the rings physically elongate the neck bones, they actually compress the collarbone and rib cage, creating the illusion of an elongated neck. The process is gradual and typically begins during childhood, with additional rings added as the wearer grows older. Among the Kayan-Lawi and related tribes, the tradition of wearing neck rings is deeply rooted in cultural and spiritual significance. Neck rings are often worn as symbols of beauty, cultural identity, and status within the community. Women who wear neck rings are considered to embody grace, elegance, and femininity, and the practice may also be associated with marriage and fertility rites. Despite its cultural significance, the practice of neck elongation has garnered some controversy and criticism from outsiders. Some argue that it imposes physical discomfort and restricts the wearer's mobility, while others raise concerns about the preservation of cultural identity and the potential exploitation of indigenous communities for tourism purposes. While the tradition of elongating the neck through the use of rings remains prevalent among certain indigenous groups, particularly in Southeast Asia, it is gradually declining due to various factors such as modernization, changing cultural attitudes, and increased exposure to outside influences. Nonetheless, the practice serves as a fascinating example of the diverse beauty ideals and cultural traditions found across different societies around the world. Number 1. Foot binding. Foot binding, also known as lotus feet, was a beauty trend that originated in China during the Song Dynasty 10th to 13th centuries and persisted for over a millennium until the early 20th century. This practice involved tightly binding the feet of young girls, typically between the ages of 4 and 9, to prevent normal growth and produce tiny, pointed feet known as lotus feet. The process of foot binding typically began with soaking the feet in warm water to soften the skin, followed by breaking and reshaping the bones of the toes. The toes were then folded under the foot and tightly bound with cloth strips, gradually forcing the arch of the foot to bend and compress. Over time, as the feet healed, the bindings were tightened further, resulting in progressively smaller feet. The ideal foot size, known as the golden lotus, was around 3 to 4 inches, 7.5 to 10 centimeters, in length. Foot binding was associated with notions of beauty, femininity, and social status in Chinese culture. Women with bound feet were considered more desirable for marriage, as small feet were seen as delicate and graceful. Foot binding also served as a marker of wealth and social standing, as the practice was often associated with upper-class families who could afford to keep their daughters from manual labor. Despite its widespread acceptance and popularity for centuries, foot binding was also criticized by some scholars and reformers for its physical and psychological consequences. In 1912, the newly established Republic of China officially banned foot binding, and the practice gradually declined over the following decades. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more content.